and start our recording. All right, hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's presentation. Tonight we are joined by a longtime Poolesville resident who I'm sure many of you know as the editor of the Monocacy Monocle, Randy Davis. Randy also served over 10 years on the board of the historic Medley District. So tonight he will be sharing with us a special historic Medley edition of Trivial Pursuit. If you'd like to play along, please get out a piece of paper to mark down your answers. There will be an opportunity to check your answers and to unmute at the end for Q&A. If you enjoyed tonight's presentation, please make sure to check out our website and register to join us again next week. Without further ado, Randy, take it away.
Great. Well, I like my Trivia Pursuit box there. See that? I want to give credit to Laura Muncie, our layout person. Okay, you can take that down now. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I have one small problem. Well, at one moment, I have a problem. Somebody has to help me out because I was going to open my document so I can read these questions. Is there a way to shrink this picture out of view?
If you hit the escape key, it should do that.
Okay. I'm sorry for this. I didn't know that was going to happen. Okay, now you have to tell me where the escape key is.
It should just be on the upper left of your keyboard.
Okay. Oh, thanks. All right, that's great. This is going to work now. I was only... Well, good evening. I'm so excited about tonight. You know, this year, the Poolesville Day is the 30th anniversary of Poolesville Day. And you may not realize it, but the origin of the day in 1993 was connected to the John Poole House. 1993 was the 200th anniversary of the John Poole House. And the commissioners at the time decided they might want to celebrate it. So Tom Dillingham, Nancy Foss, and Bobby Evans formed the first committee, an ad hoc committee, to figure out what to do. And through the approval of the commissioners, finally, we had our first Poolesville Day. If John Poole were alive today, there's no question how proud he would be on Poolesville. In his day, the town would have been Poole's store. And it was not so much about him, but the focal point was the commerce and about the store. Back then, the population of Poolesville was very, very sparse. And we were in what was called the wilderness. At that time, John Poole's time, there were not Native Americans residing in the area. Most that did come through the area were transient and actually ended up living elsewhere. Those that did live in our area primarily were Piscataways. That may surprise you because we have so many references to Seneca throughout our area. And yet the reason for that is the colonial British called all Native Americans, all Indians by one name, Senecas, much like we might make the mistake of calling all Asians Chinamen or all Hispanics Mexican, that kind of faux pas. That's what they did. So hence everything was Seneca. And the Piscataways came here from Southern Maryland after being routed by the Susquehannocks, another tribe up in Pennsylvania. They were a belligerent group and they wanted those oysters and crabs. So that forced the Piscataways to move into our area. And for a generation, they lived over by the Monocacy Aqueduct. Now, we'll begin. The way this is going to work, I'm going to ask you to write down your answers. I'll ask a question, give you a little bit of time, and then give you the answer. You'll score your own trivia. Okay, the persons with the highest scores will get a bag of cookies from Kaleva or a loaf of bread, their choice. I don't think, except for some of the people who have been connected with HMD a long time, I don't think anybody will get more than 50%. All right, because it is mystery history after all. So let's start off with this question first, trivia question. Got your pencils and papers? You can tell I'm an old guy because I said pencils. Anyway, what was the very first preservation project that the historic Medley district was involved in? Does anyone want to go down? Da, 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 da? If you have an answer, write it down. The answer is the Darnell Farm. That's the farm as you go out Poole toward Rockville on the left. As you go across the Elgin Bridge and start to go up the hill, the Darnell Farm is to the left. What other restoration projects has HMD been responsible for? We know that they have done, obviously, the John Poole House, Seneca Schoolhouse, the Old Town Bank Museum. But what other projects can you name? You only have to get one of them right to get a point here. And the answer is the Chiswell Place on Cattail Road and the Thomas Poole House, built in 1835. You know that building because it's been a restaurant on 2 occasions and also was the home of our very popular Blue Hearth gift shop when it was here. The official name, by the way, is Historic Medley District, LLC. Medley was the name of the county voting district we were part of when it was created in 1776. Question number 3. What happened in 1776 that caused the naming of the district? And the answer, Montgomery County broke from Frederick County, became its own county, and they had to name the voting districts. They named them back then. They didn't give them numbers like they do today. So, number 4, where did the name Medley come from? And what were the other 4 districts? Be sure to mark your question if you get it right with a point, so you can score yourself easily at the end. The answer is that the name of the Medley Tavern, the name came from the voting place, which was the Medley Tavern owned by John Baptist in Bellsville. I understand the location was somewhere in the neighborhood south of Bellsville on the east side on the hill. Now, there were 4 other voting districts besides Medley, and they were, some are familiar and some are not, Rockville, Clarksburg, Berry, and Craflin. As I've already mentioned, during John Poole's time, the area was heavily forested and sparsely populated. And most of the people who did live here lived in 3 or 4 room houses of log or board. But the families were self-sufficient, usually owning a large vegetable garden, horses, garden, cows, sheep, hogs, chickens. Okay, this next one's a trick question, I think, and it may be a gimme. But what year was the John Poole Trading House built and by whom? What year did they build the John Poole House and who built it? I already gave you a clue on the opening statement. For those who didn't pay attention, in 1993, it was the 200th anniversary. So the house was built 1793. If you said anything other than John Poole Jr., don't give yourself a. If you wrote John Poole, doesn't count. He had a father. At the time that he was in the area, there were some plantations and families and other farmers and merchants. Now, we happen to know, when you go into the John Poole House, a great deal about the products that were offered by Poole. And it seems that John was a very meticulous bookkeeper, kept great records, what he purchased, the cost, and we can trace what he bought to sell through his inventory books. So the items that are in that room, largely replicas, are very accurate for the time of his being here. How old was John Poole Jr. when he built the house? That's question number 6. And the answer is 24. Now, John was a prominent citizen of our town that was originally called, as we said, Poole's Store, and was eventually named after him. Now, it became a post office in 1804. Now, this is interesting for us today because in 1954, Poolesville had a 150th celebration, a sesquicentennial, to mark it, and they used 1804 as yours. Now, we recently had our second 150th celebration because the town was chartered in 1867. So for our more recent celebration, we use that date. Now, I have a newspaper clipping in my possession that swears that that Poolesville was chartered in 1888. So that's obviously not correct, but if it were, we'd be in a position to have our third 150th celebration. We'll get to some of the more intriguing questions. And if you get any of these right, give yourself a point. And if you get them all right, tell me. I want to know who got them all right. Because if not Poolesville, what name most likely would this town have been? Now we get into the mystery history. What would they have called us if they didn't do Poolesville? Some think it might well have been Brightwell, Maryland. You see, Ranger Captain Richard Brightwell patrolled the area of the Potomac to protect the settlers, and also was out here a great deal. So it might have been Brightwell, or it could have been Peters Forest or Petersville, named after surveyor Robert Peter, who claimed property in the area in 1784. Or how about Platterville, Maryland? Thomas Platter is quite an interesting guy. He owned property in the late 1700s, and he was a refined gentleman from Georgetown. And back then, friends of Mr. Platter probably called him Colonel Platter, since Mr. Platter achieved that rank while seeing action in the state militia during the Whiskey Insurrection of 1794. Then again, friends and foes alike would have referred to him as the Honorable Thomas Platter. Why? Because this Tavern in the Woods owner was a congressman from Maryland who, as a member of the Federalist Party, served all the citizens of Maryland, not just the people from the Medley district. He served from 1801 to 1805. Question number 8. We know John Poole was a merchant. He had other titles. Can you name one of the many different titles that John Poole held as a citizen of Poolesville? John Poole had many titles as a citizen of Poolesville beyond merchant. If I'm going too fast, if anyone thinks I should slow down, let me know. I want to give everybody plenty of time. Well, we'll start off with his being a member, a congregant of St. Peter's Episcopal Church. At St. Peter's, they would have known John Poole as a lay minister. He often filled in for the priest if the priest wasn't available. He was also a vestryman on the governing board of the church. John Poole's signature is on the very first membership registry of St. Peter's Church. I've seen it. It's right there. He was also, you might call him a postmaster. But there was another title And by the way, if you get any of those right there, or any of these that I'm about to give you, give yourself a point. As a merchant, he had another official title. And he was what they called a factor. Factor. So question number 9, what is a factor? Our bunch of, I don't know what you call it, our bunch of tobacco that we used to have hanging in the John Poole house got pretty rancid and old, but it gives you a clue that they had tobacco there. Well, a factor is someone who is somewhat of a financial judge. We were still largely a trading economy. Currency could be by the state or by the federal government. But out here in the wilderness, a lot of the trade was, economy was through trade. And anytime two people were trading items, they often could get into a discussion as to what was a fair price. And between the two of them, they couldn't decide. So they had someone to go to, the head merchant, the factor, John Poole. So they would go to him and he would make the decision. And I assume that most people abided by his decision. Certainly all the successful trades were done that way. Okay, back to a simpler question. Many of you will get this one. Who was John Poole married to? Now I will make this I could make it easy by saying, give me her first name. But I want you to give me her first and last name before she married John Poole, if you can. Now, once I give you the answer, we have a picture of her we're going to put up. So if you get ready to show the picture, we'll start by saying her name was Priscilla. And there she is. I assume everybody can see her. Can someone respond to me? How do I do that?
Yes, we can see her.
Okay,
Yeah.
it just dawned on me. I may have been going for about 20 minutes.
That happened once, but no. But yeah,
I
but you're
once
good.
told
But you're good.
I once told the most terrific bedtime story to my 2 grandsons. And I went on, and it was great. And then I looked down and they were so sound asleep. I couldn't figure out, well, what part did they miss? Because they missed the best one I ever gave. Anyway, good. I'm glad everybody's there. So her name was Priscilla Sprigg. And they lived in the house until around 1810 when Priscilla inherited the Sprigg family farm out in Barnesville, and they moved there. All right, question number 11. Name 3 ways, and then you can show the picture I put up, but name 3 ways the John Poole house has been used over the years. 3 ways the John Poole house has been used. I suspect this is one of the more easy questions. I'll throw out a bonus question that'll be harder. So it's been a trading post, a post office, and a residence. And I will give you 2 bonus questions related to this. In fact, if you answer both of these questions, you automatically get a bag of cookies. So if you get both of these right, let me know. We have a person living in Poolesville today that lives in the house as a boy, as a residence. Can you name him? And the other question is, one of the residents in the house was a Money family. And Mr. Money buried something in the backyard. Tell me what he buried. I love this story. I love telling this story to the little kids around Halloween. What did he bury? Write something down. I don't. Mr. Money buried his finger. He cut it off by accident. He was so distraught about losing his finger. He put it in a jar, buried it in the backyard, and told the family, when I die, I want that finger in my casket, so it'll go to heaven with me. The only problem is the family never found the finger. So somewhere in the backyard is a jar with Mr. Money's finger. And if we find it, I think we'll just trust it. We won't need a DNA test because I don't think there'll be more than one. Question number 12. After John Poole, who was the shopkeeper and first post office manager or postmaster, who took over the store from John Poole. His name is Dennis Lackland. He was an employee of John's, and he took over the trading post when the Pooles moved to Barnesville. Now, he made $75 a year for that role. I mean, the mail carrier, not him, the mail carrier who brought the mail made $75 a year, bringing the mail from Darnestown all the way over to Leesburg. Now, question number 13. Question number 13. When the mail was delivered, people didn't have mailboxes. How did they get their mail? How did it come to them? How did they collect it? For those of you involved in HMD, most of you will get this one easy. Okay, this is question number 13. The answer is in the job, and you're going to show the picture in a second. I think, oh, she got it up there. Did that go up first before I read the question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, there it is. You see the answer. In the John Poole house, they have straps over the mantelpiece. And they had a wall, and the mail could be put there. And I love the modern interpretation of the wall. We all have stuff on our Facebook wall, and there is a real wall. So they could come in and look to see if they had any of the mail from down county or elsewhere waiting for them. And I like to think when they got postcards, you know, everybody could read their mail, I guess. Anyway. All right. Now, Dennis Lackland sold the store around 1822, and he sold it to a gentleman by the name of Ignatius Davis. How about that? A Davis once owned the John Poole house. I'm proud of that, I guess. Why did the trading post go out of business? Why did the John Poole house as a commercial trading post or store go out of business? This is question number 14. Don't put the picture up yet. Don't put the picture up yet. Let me answer this first, and then we'll get the pictures for number 14 up in a second. And the answer is why a lot of businesses go out of business. It's competition. What made this competition even more interesting, though, is it was still a Poole. Benjamin and Joseph Poole opened a store at the corner of Elgin Road, Whitesbury Road. Now you can put the picture up. This picture, okay, this is later, much later on, but I can't say for sure if this is a good depiction of what the store was, but we do know it was a more successful, bigger store. And so we found this picture. I thought, well, that'd be a good visual for the Benjamin thing. This looks to be a picture, just by the hats alone, I'm going to guess after 1900, actually. All right. What was Poolesville's main street name in John Poole's time? We know it as Fisher Avenue, Route 109. But back in his time, that wasn't there. The road actually came up in front of the town hall, right up the road, came right in front of the John Poole house. So that's the name of the road I'm asking you to give me. And it was the main road into town. Today, we know part of that road as Bell Street. I live on Bell Street. It's right on the park. And the road was Coxon Road. Next question. When did Coxon Road, I take it back, when did the new road replace Coxon Road as the main road in the town? The one we do know as Fisher Avenue. By the way, it was named after the farmer Fisher, the Fisher family farm. And it was, the Coxon Road was moved, you might say, to the other side of the park in today's terminology. Coxon Road became Fisher Avenue. Now, envision coming into Poolesville from Rockville. And just before you, about a mile out, you come to Poolesville, you take an extremely sharp left-hand turn for absolutely no reason. You look at the ahead of you, it's just a pasture, no mountains, no creeks, nothing. You have to wonder why the sharp turn. During the John Poole's time, the road extended and curved until it came what it would go in back of what we call the shopping mall, where the library is, where the Peters house is. And it would come in front of my house and go up to John Poole house. And that was Coxon Road. And the only part left of Coxon Road now is in front of my house and in front of the John Poole house. Now, it was built to avoid the flooding that took place for one reason. Another reason is Robert Peter owned property in town up on the other side. And if your house was on the main street in town, it improved your value of your home. So I don't know what part caused the road to be moved relating to the flooding, and what part was just, hey, let's move it up here and my property value will go up. But it became Fisher Avenue. Question number 17. Question number 17. Okay, you're all going to get this one. I just have this is going to be one of our highest questions. What crop was used most often as a cash crop, and why did it end? I guess the second part will be more of a mystery, since I've already given away this. So what crop was the main crop, or a large crop, cash crop? The answer is tobacco. And I always tell the kids when they come through, tobacco is not just bad for your lungs, it's bad for your soil. It depletes its nutrients. And if you farm too long just tobacco, it won't work. So they had to switch to other products like wheat and corn. Okay, the next one is a bit of a mystery. We have a survey of sorts that says 75% of the homes in the area in the early 1800s had this tool in the house. It was, I guess, cutting edge technology for them. But 75% of the Poolesville homes had it. What was that tool, that device, that 75% of the homes had? The answer is spinning wheel. Someone at one time said a butter churn. That was not part of the survey I saw, but I would assume that most had that too, but but in this case, this is the answer we're looking for. So John Poole served the basic needs of our town and with imported local goods. He got a lot of product from Georgetown. He got it out here by wagon. Later on, the C&O Canal brought things out. And often these products included queensware, china, stoneware, pewter, fabric, needles, pins, buttons, shoes, hats, gloves, foods like wine, tea, coffee, sugar, salt, rum, brandy, cheese, and chocolate were more of the imported kind from Georgetown. But we manufactured or produced a lot locally. So our local manufacturing include people who made candles and cloth and yam and full blankets and hides and ground flour, potatoes, apples, smoked meat, pickled fish, and local cider. Question number 19. In the early 1800s, name two other kinds of businesses besides the John Poole House that would have been in town at that time. I've got them 5 or 6 here. So just name two other kinds of businesses you would think of that would be here. So some of the answers were blacksmith, a tinsmith, carpenter, a harness maker, and a tailor. Now the town quickly grew to include a livery, stables, barber shop, clothing store, 2 doctors, one of them being John Poole's son, Thomas. Now, when you look at the John Poole House today, you notice that there's 3 parts to the building. The original building was only the log cabin. Around 1813, in that time frame, the back section was built, which is an example typical of family living during the pre-Civil War. It served as a kitchen and a living area. Now, you can go ahead and put this picture up now, number 20. I believe it's 20. Let's see. Good. You see the door to the left of the fireplace. What is that little room called? And what was it used for? The little room to the left was called up. You ready? I don't hear anyone screaming, hold down. So I guess I'm not going too fast. So hopefully we're okay. It was called a pent, P-E-N-T, pent. And it was a cooler storage area. Not like a refrigerator, but I guess it would be as close as you'd get to back then. Now, of all the artifacts that are in the house, there is one that can be traced all the way back to the origins of the John Poole House. And so the question is, what is that item? Don't put the picture up, please. Okay, wait 1 second. We'll do 21. Okay. Of all the things that were found in the house, what is it that hangs in the John Poole House that goes back to its origin? Okay, now you can put the picture up. If we could do that. Looking good. All right. The match holder. But it's more than just a match holder. Look at that match holder. Does it remind you of anything? Because it's known as a George Washington match holder. That's a frontal profile of the president. It would probably have been one of them. Having something in the house reflecting George Washington was extremely common, whether it was a portrait or a matchbox or any other memorabilia. Americans revered him totally. And it was found in the walls during restoration. Now, I'll give you multiple choice on this next one. This will be a little bit easier. So now we get to the white section, the white wood planking section to the right of the John Poole house. The question is, how long was that there? When was that built? And I'll give you 4 dates. Was it built in 1796, 3 years after the log cabin? Was it built in 1824, 1866, or 1910? Since you only have to pick a date, I'll go ahead and move along on that one. The correct answer is 1866. 1866. Now, upstairs is a bedroom, and on display is a thistle rope bed that supports a feather ticking mattress. It's a rope bed. And on that bed is a quilt that was made by Evelina Hyde, a daughter-in-law of John Poole II. She made it in 1836. Now, it was a rope bed. What childhood ditty, poem, if you would, that was always fun, comes from having a rope bed? It will explain, knowing a rope bed in your mind actually explains the little ditty. And it was used pretty recently, because I think as a kid, I used to hear it too. Sometimes they would say, and here it is, good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. If you slept in a tight bed, you slept good. And a tight bed refers to a rope bed, which often would have a feather mattress on. And if you've never slept in a feather mattress, you've missed something. My grandmother fortunately had one, and we would visit her in the winter, and the room was always kept cold until we got there, which means it was freezing by the time we got our pajamas on and had to run in and jump into the bed. But that old feather bed mattress would be so fluffy and big, and you jump in it and you dive in it, and then as you lay there with a blanket over you, it just sunk right into it. The feathers completely surrounded you, and within minutes you were toasty warm. It's a great sleep. Okay, question number 23. Question number 23. What makes the landscape in the yard of the John Poole house very unique? Our landscape is very unique. And as we get to that point, you should know that its official name is the Edward Stock Arboretum. Molly, I think her name is Molly Stock, also was involved in designing the yard. It's so exciting to see it today. It looks so great today as it did 10 years ago. Well, so HMD has really done a wonderful job. I love the garden and the shrubs, bushes, and it looks really, really good. And we had an Eagle Scout come along and build, what do you call that? Can't even think of the name. But what made the yard and the backyard, the Arboretum, so unique is it only has native trees and plants and vegetation that is typical to Maryland and typical to the time of John Poole. There was a time when you can go to John Poole house and buy herbs that were Maryland only, and they dated back then, and they were in the garden. And it would be nice to restore that. I think if we could find a people who would love gardening, and we know we do because we have such great participation in the Poolesville Presbyterian Church community garden, maybe we can find more people who could come in and start doing the herb garden again and some other things. That would really be a wonderful thing to add. I still think the backyard of the John Poole House would be a wonderful place for a small wedding, and we could make some money with that. Now, all of this with HMD must be credited to the good people around 1974 who stood up and took charge and preserved the John Poole House and created the historic Medley. So now question number 24 is name the leading, and there's more than the three, but who are the three leading founders of HMD? Any one of these names will qualify for a point. You don't have to get them all. I'm fortunate to know, I know for sure 2 out of 3. One, I'm not sure if I met her. Both were terrific ladies. I'll give the first name because it's a name I think you won't get. So give you a little bit more time to get the right answer. One of them was Louise Stevens. And if you don't know who she is, you know Locals Restaurant. And that house that it's in at one time was known as the Stevens House. Okay, the answer to the house is Mary Ann Kephart and Winsome Brown. Now, Winsome led an initiative to restore the rented back, she led the initiation in terms of getting the money. Locals is what, and Locals is what is in the Stevens House now. Now, beyond Stevens and Locals, those are 2 names for that building. There were 2 other names for the same building. One I think you'll get. The first one, which really goes back in time, you may not. So there's 2 other names for the Stevens House, the Locals Restaurant building. And the names were Veers, the oldest one, and many of you probably remember Handmaidens. What a great store that was. You go in there, and a little gift shop to the left. It was only in the little section to the left. And anyone who walked through the door walked away with a carnation, even if they didn't buy anything. So that was a great idea for gift shop. You come in, you look around, even the lookers would get a carnation. So before I go to any other questions you may have, we do have a surprise guest tonight. Someone that I think you'll be pleased to meet, and totally unexpected. I wasn't sure it could happen. And I'm going to go get this person, and they're going to make a statement. And if you just wait 2 seconds, I'm going to do this, and I'll get this other person.
Denise, you could stop sharing.
Okay. Oh, good evening, everybody.
Look, it's John Poole.
Yes, thank you. It's amazing how fast you can travel through. I got to move my glasses down to my nose a little bit. Fast, yes. And time travel is a wonderful thing. And Randy asked me to make a statement about my house, what I think of it, what I think of the town, what I think of you. So in closing, I want to say something very important to you. And I want to be crystal clear in my thoughts. And since I don't have what you call a teleprompter, I want you to forgive me for reading this. But I want you to know, from my long association with this town, I am very proud. Proud it bears my family name. Proud it has been a neighborly place to live, work, and undoubtedly even to die in. And it amazes me that we went from such a humble beginning to become the 2nd largest town in Montgomery County in the mid-1800s. Hey, in 1878, when we were about 300 people, Bethesda was only 25. So we had our heyday. And we know we played such an important role during the Civil War. But I want you to remember this, most of all. The number of people in Poolesville has never been, nor will it ever be, the most important thing about this town. It is not about how many of us there are who live in Poolesville. It's more about who we are. Now, in my time, we were family-oriented, hardworking people. We took pride in our commitment to each other and integrity in our business dealings. We were people who always found our happiness and pleasure in each other's company. We did this through fairs, festivals, dinners, dances, and other gatherings, large and small. Yes, Poolesville Day is a great day, and it's 30 years old. But Poolesville, we've been celebrating together like a family from the beginning. Most importantly, we were a faithful people, reverent toward God, loving to each other through the very many good times and through those incredibly devastating times. The Civil War was hard on us all. And through it all, we were, and you are, the people of Poolesville. Thanks for coming. And that's our trivia. See how I do this? Oh, that startled me. There I am. I'll click that. So I could take a few more questions if you want. I just gave you 24. I hope you found many of them really interesting. Did anyone get more than 12 right? Anybody keep their score? Any more than 12? Jean probably did. She's not going to tell.
I'm sure.
It
No, she definitely did not.
was supposed to be a mystery history, and if you got too many right, then I would have not lived up to what we wanted to do. So you can see that being involved with the John Poole House is a really fun thing to do. There's really a lot of intriguing things, and there's even more. There's another whole night of it, but we hope to bring you more of these if you like. We'll probably do the history on the Civil War in the same fashion, with some fun stuff and intriguing stuff, because we have a lot that sets us apart as a town with the Civil War. And since the newspaper started March of 2004, I've written many mystery history columns. And so we'll present some of those. I'm going to start reprinting many of them. Some haven't been read in 10 or 12 years. And I'd love to think if you read it then, you remember it now, but I don't even remember it. So anyway, we hope to do that. But thanks everybody for coming. I see it's 7:53. We close this out at a decent time. And did anyone have any other questions? I want to encourage you all to think about two things: being a docent on occasion, okay, and also I would like to reinstate the Poolesville History Day. We did that day about, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. It's time to do it again. We made Historic Medley over $4,000 in that one day presentation. And I think it was really special and really, really good. So if any of you would like to participate in that committee and we start looking at a date, we'd love to do another Poolesville in History Day and bring that to the town. Thank you.
If anybody wants to know when they'll be open, they're going to be open twice a month for the rest of, like into November. It is in the Poolesville Seniors Community Activities article, those dates. And also it was on the registration for this event.
So Randy, I have a question. The Money family, Mr. Money, how long did his relatives stay in the Poolesville area? Because there, when I first moved here many years ago, there was a Ray Money, a Mr. Raymond Money, who lived in this town. Was he related to that family?
They must be. I mean, I don't have the records in front of me to prove that, but the Money family is a name that has been in town. Yeah.
Do you know who the last family was that lived in the John Poole house?
You know, I think I'll ask Lowell. He may very well have been Lowell Jackson. Many of you, if you go to St. Peter's, might know Jeannie Jackson. Lowell was a fireman, and he lived in it. So I'm going to ask him to see. And I don't know if my favorite guy out there, Jim, if you have anything to add, pipe up, buddy. But you know, maybe he would know.
I know Charlie Glass said that his wife had lived there as a child.
Oh, as well. Okay.
Yeah, so I wondered, I don't know what her family name was, so I just wondered how long they lived there.
Boy.
I think
I
her
don't know.
family name was Tetlow, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay. All right.
But I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean, they took it over in 1974 and began the project. And they had a lot of fundraising events. They had barn dances and other things and things that we could do again for HMD to help them. And those are all the great things that are fun to do and brings us together as a community. Again, something that is so typical of what Poolesville is all about. But no, I don't know for sure who the last family was. I happen to have the name of everybody who ever owned my house on Wayland Commons. That front house on the left goes back to 1828. And I have every name of every person who ever had a deed on it. And my goal is to take the small guest room upstairs and put crown molding around the guest room and put everybody's name around on that. I haven't decided how to do that. I originally thought maybe I could do it with a wood graving thing, and maybe someone knows a good graphic person who could just do the name. But I think that'd be really cool to have everybody's name in the guest room and leave room for whoever comes down the road, because you can live in the house, you can own a house, but we're all guests in the final analysis, that's for sure.
Sure.
I also saw a question in the chat that asks, who was Medley?
Why the name of the tavern, Medley? Now that's a good one. I don't know, because the owner was John Baptist, and I always think it's funny that a guy by the name of Baptist owned a tavern. Baptists are not really known to imbibe back that much, but I have no idea why they call it the Medley. Gene, do you have any idea? You ever?
No, I don't have any idea whether there was a person named Medley or what it was.
Yeah, you know,
There was
maybe they got drunk. Maybe they got drunk and sang a lot of medleys.
There you go.
It was a swinging, singing bar. Maybe that's what.
there was a family named Medley that owned a tavern, and that's where they did the elections at.
Yes.
That's where you went to vote.
All right, that's what we said. Yeah. Okay. So that was the family was. Thank you. See, now there's the man. I'm a historic pretender. Jim Poole is a historic real guy, so he knows everything. If I don't know, I'll ask Jim, and he just piped up.
And
Thank you, Jim.
Doris Barr's last name was Bell.
Oh,
Oh,
And
okay.
her aunt Nellie Rudder and Jack Rudder were the ones that lived their house there for the longest time. I don't know if they were the last, but
Yeah.
I always went to visit them there.
What a wealth of information. Yeah, I always learn something new every time I get within 10 feet of Mr. Poole. So, yeah, that's good. You know, sometimes I tell people if I don't know the answer, I'll make
Do
one
we have
up.
any more questions?
You'll at least like the answer. I don't really do that. I'm just a joke, folks. Yeah. Oh, good. Well, everybody's smiling right now. That's kind of encouraging. I have to feel good about that part.
it was fun.
All right.
It was fun.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
Let
so
me
much,
know if you
Randy.
want some more of these, because I'll be happy to come back in a couple of months and do a few more. And I didn't know how this was going to work out. It was a little bit dry. I think for me, it was a little, I don't know, it might have been a better way to play the trivia game, but I didn't get any answers though. What Did
I
anybody,
only got one right, I'll tell
Okay.
you that.
okay, did anybody get 10? Oh, come on. No, not even 10? I didn't think it was that much of a mystery. Okay, well, that's good. Then it's very important.
I
You
only
You
got
stumped
down to
us
one.
all.
Huh?
I said, you stumped us all.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, I know who got most of them right. And Mr. Poole got most of them
No,
right.
I only got 2 right.
You got it right?
2.
Well, I'm going to give, let me see. I'm going to give a bag of cookies to Jim, a bag of cookies to Jean, because she's on the Medley. And my goodness, I'm looking at all these smiling faces. Let me see right here. These are really good smiles. I don't know which one to go. You forget it, Wolves. John, you're not getting the cookies to save. Yeah. I don't care how many squash and tomatoes you give me. You're not getting the cookies. And Jeff Exxon, I don't see his face smiling. Caroline. All right. All right. All right. You're like, all right. Denise, you worked with me. I got to give you a bag of cookies.
Yay.
All right. So what did
Good
I say?
decision. Good
Jean,
decision.
Jean and Jim and Denise. And the rest of you deserve cookies just with your smiles alone and putting up with me for, hey, it's an hour. I made it. I was
Yay.
All right,
Good,
folks. Thank you.
Randy,
If
thank
you
you.
didn't
Randy, thank
win,
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
thank
Great job.
It
you.
was really
Bye-bye.
wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Good night, everyone. If you didn't win this week, you'll have to join us next time.
I'm glad the hat came back.